list, and you could not only see the cars responding, but you could hear who was pressing on as well. Certainly as the Michelin tire on which everybody runs was squealing in protest. Chris Shear there, one of the quick drivers from yesterday, not the quickest, but he's always there or thereabouts, and the Phantom Pro Mercedes is going to be one to watch in this first of the 2 qualifying sessions.
Great livery on that car as well. Great livery on many of the cars, and some unusual colours as well, including the number 9 car of Liang Xiao, the Harmony Racing BMW, and the 27 Chang Tsung Chang in the Toro Racing car.
Toro Racing, a very busy team. They're running cars in GT4 and GT3, and they're not just looking after one brand. Both GT3 and GT4. They've got Porsche GT3 and BMW with GT4. So splitting their time across different categories and different brands as well. Number 3 Mercedes is in the Elegant Racing Team Mercedes. There are some great team names.
There really are.
I know that you quite like the fancy team.
I do.
For me, Elegant Racing Team, I think. I have visions of all the mechanics wearing cravats.
yeah. I just like the fancy racing team because they are just called fancy, so you can then say the name of the team and the name of the car, and it gives the impression that the car is a fancy car.
Whatever takes your
I rather like
fancy.
It. Number 30, that's Tiang Ruxi in the RSR Porsche. Cheer from David Addison. It's a Porsche Cayman.
Lovely looking car, bullet-shaped 718 iteration of the Cayman. The 718 Cayman GT4 RS CS, to give it its full title. The RS tag for Porsche, the CS for Club Sport. And yes, it is one of a number of the 718 Caymans that we have in the entry, including another one for Xiaoyu, number 1. And they're about to be released onto the circuit. We're into the last couple of minutes before the green flag waves. Lotus also in the entry, including the cars of Matt Carlock, who had problems yesterday, but he's not really a quick driver, Matt Carlock, another experienced driver from Macau.
Topping the times in both of the free practice sessions yesterday with pretty equal times on both sessions, 2:33.9s in session 1 and session 2 as well, was Lorky Law in car number 79. Very impressive liveried car, that, the Mercedes-AMG GT4.
That's the Ning Chi Kin Lotus Exige out of the GTC, this is the GT Cup class, which obviously is for cars that are not quite full GT4 spec, many of which have come from their own one-make championships, for example, so their regulations are slightly different. Over its shoulder sits 77, which is Lo Kim Ho's RPM racing team Ginetta G55 GT4, the Leeds-built car, and that's going to be another one to watch, I suspect. But yeah, Lo yesterday was just absolutely mighty in the number 79 Mercedes AMG GT4, and there it is, at the front of the queue. Law, very much a candidate for pole position, but sitting next to him, number 68 James Tang. He was another very spectacular driver yesterday, and James Tang able to respond in the second session. He was second fastest. We're looking at times at 2 minutes 33, really, as the cars now are released. The quickest session was the second, but only by 0.04 of a second, actually. It wasn't a massive improvement from Law in
pretty equal,
FP2. Yeah.
They were very different in times on track, so at 9:10 yesterday morning was their first session, and then 1:30 in the afternoon. Conditions got warmer as the day goes on, not surprisingly, but putting in a pretty equal time. There's a lovely sight.
It's a lovely sight, and it's a lovely sound. GT racing is to be encouraged, whether it's GT3 or GT4, not only because the cars are all different shapes, not only because they're all different sizes, not only because you've got lots of different brands represented, but perhaps most importantly of all, they all make good, different noises, as racing cars ought to do. They should be loud and they should be noisy.
Joyous. Second day we've had the noise rant, and very well executed. Thank you very much indeed. Cars are on.
See you again tomorrow. But it's true, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
You know,
it is absolutely
stand
true.
by the side of the circuit, whether it's with this or the GT3 cars, and you know what's coming past you because they make different sounds. And people go on about how great different cars sound, and yet the world's moving towards more and more categories where there isn't a sound to be heard from a power plant.
Well, this has got to be one of the greatest circuits to listen to them as well, because the sound bounces off the guardrails and the walls right the way around the circuit. You can hear the cars. Well, certainly if you are staying at Macau and you plan on having a lie-in in one of the hotels, well, you can forget doing it from about 7:30 onwards, because the noise starts at 7:30 with the motorcycles and it finishes at around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So no lie-ins, out of bed and down to trackside, where there are grandstands right the way around the gear circuit and all the notable viewing points. And we saw yesterday morning, bright and early, loads of people turning up in the grandstands, and that was a free practice day.
Lots of liquid was put down in the road sport session at the Melco hairpin after contact between a couple of minis. So the cement dust there, the sand to try and soak it up. The, what's it called, speedy dry there to try and make that road grippy again and safer. So it might be a lap or two before drivers are totally committed to go for a real time coming out of that section of the circuit. As you look there at number 7, Ginetta heading down towards Fisherman's, Lei Kit Meng, another Macau driver.
Let's see who's able to have got themselves a bit of clear track, and we're looking particularly to a car that we got used to watching on quick laps yesterday, the 79 Mercedes, in what is a very popular colour for cars at Macau this year, and a very striking colour scheme as well. Sort of a did we come up with a decision about what colour we were going to call it?
I think we were heading towards magenta.
We were sort of a burgundy magenta with the silver back of the car, but it is extremely impressive. Kicks up the dust on the exit of Lisboa. This is going to be commitment early on in this 25-minute qualifying session 1, and the 79 car of Lor Ki Law, as we say, topped the times in free practice 1 and free practice 2 yesterday. Negotiating this tight and twisty and very technical section of the circuit, down past the wall, through the left-hander at Teddy Ip onto the Solitude S's.
And has been able at the moment at least to have clear track space, plenty of task wheel as the car hustles through, and it looks like a totally committed lap. So close to the wall, absolute best in the middle sector. So Lor Ki Law absolutely storming on here to try to get in a banker lap before he hits the traffic.
Yeah, and this is significant as well. Put the lap in early on in the session. You don't know what's going to happen. That was close.
Very close. He
that was
himself
too close.
There. Yeah. So he's wasted a 10th or 2, but I think he's got the momentum to respond from that.
Yeah, and you see how close he came on the exit of Moorish as well, because you saw just the barrier wafting in the breeze as the car went past, up towards Donna Maria, and then down towards the Melco hairpin, with dressing to the fluid which is down at Melco. No overtaking, of course. That's why you've got the yellow panel, the green panel boards after the hairpin to say that overtaking is allowed once more. But this, despite that slightly twitchy moment, oh, and another one as well, kicking up the dust coming around there. Goodness me, this is commitment, isn't it? Early on in the lap, it's going to be important. But just got away with that. Up towards the conclusion of the lap, the number 79 car, Lor Ki Law.
And a 2:33.040 then for Lor Ki Law. But behind him, Liang Jitong has gone even quicker, 2:29 in number 9 Lamborghini. You can see it there. So that's now the pole position car. So Liang Jitong for Harmony Racing goes even quicker than the very committed Lor Ki Law.
2:29.128 is the provisional pole time, and good that we've got right from the outset of this qualifying session. We've got these good quick laps coming in, and still on it is the number 9 car, Liang Jitong. Purple in sector 1 on this lap. It's going to be traffic. So this, not just a little bit of traffic, a lot of traffic to deal with here. So that might be quite a hindrance. Included in that, I think, is the 79 car.
Yeah, Liang Jiatong, who's something of a Lamborghini specialist. He's raced them in Europe in the Italian GT Championship and the International GT Open. He's a class winner from the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia, won Pro-Am going back a good few years. So he knows Lamborghinis inside out, and the Harmony racing car that's actually out of the GTC class is therefore closer to Super Trofeo than GT4 spec. It is the fastest in the session, 2:29.128 then from Lord Kai Law, and Chris Shear's Mercedes up to third now, 2:37.066.
And they are together on track, aren't they? Yeah. The 79 car just ahead of the provisional pole sitter. 79, Lord Kai Law. Top of the times is car number 9, Liang Jiatong. Two of them get ever closer, I think, as they go down towards the Melco hairpin.
Yeah, you can see what Lord Kai Law is up to. He's trying to let the traffic go, but that in turn is going to slightly impede Liang Jiatong because he's closing on him. So now pace quickens. Liang Jiatong's lap spoiled. Absolute best sector 1, but then slower in sectors 2 and 3. And what he now needs is for Lord Kai Law to go for a quick lap time, and that therefore will increase the pace of the Mercedes. Lamborghini comes up to get through on the inside, so Lord Kai Law lets him go, doesn't fight that. Liang Jiatong is going to go for a quick time on this next lap. Look, as he heads up towards the beam, goes over the stripe now onto a flying lap. That was a slower time by nearly 6 seconds. That shows you what traffic can do. All
that traffic, it was significant as well, wasn't it? And able to do a purple first sector. I don't remember talking about a Lamborghini being on a provisional pole in the Melco Greater Bay Area GT Cup, or indeed the GT Cup that we'll have later on as well. But it sits on top of the times at the moment with a 2:29.128. Neither of them improving on that last lap. 2:39 for Lord Kai Law around Lisboa up towards San Francisco Hill. They both turn. The lime green Lamborghini ahead of the, what colour did you say?
Magenta.
That's right.
Mercedes.
With a bit of burgundy in it.
Yeah. But what's going to be interesting is to see whether Lord Kai Law is able to close on that Lamborghini, because if he is, it proves that he's going well in the sectors, and I don't think he is closing. Chris Shear there is third fastest, so he's done a 2:37.066. We're getting further improvements also up to fifth fastest now is Brian Lai with another of the Lamborghinis. And who else have we got going rapidly? Up to fourth now, number 27, which is the BMW out of Toro Racing's stable of Jensung Cheng.
We were saying yesterday in not just sessions for the Melco Greater Bay Area GT Cup, the cars that are on circuit now qualifying, but we said so many times yesterday, but we don't know what they're doing. They might be doing housekeeping. They might not be going for quick laps. Yeah. There was no indication of this pace yesterday for the Lamborghini. It finished up 6th yesterday in free practice 2 and 5th in free practice 1. And the time that we got in free practice 2 was a 2:40. So nowhere near this incredible provisional pole time that we've got now, a 2:29.128. We are early in this session, and of course we have another session later on today, so there could potentially be more to come.
There could be. There could also be liquid spilt in an earlier session that goes against them, so a banker lap in this is important. Chris Shear now has got the track to himself, and in terms of sector times, good in sector 1, down in sector 2. So we'll start to see in a moment whether this is going to be an improvement. No, I don't think it is. He's down in the third sector as well. The fourth sector is a short one anyway to bring you to the end of the lap, but he comes now through Fisherman's. The road opens up, comes parallel to the main road, and then down towards our Chris Shear needs to be in the very low 229s or the high 228s to really argue for pole position. And he's the wrong side of 2 minutes 32, isn't he? As he comes over the timing line. So Chris Shear's lap is a very modest one. Crikey, 7 seconds adrift. But the good news is that it was a personal best in the final sector. So that suggests now that the momentum is carried on to the next lap. This should be one to watch.
With clear track in front, a perfect opportunity, certainly for this opening part of this lap. We briefly saw the Lamborghini there. We see the Mercedes. So Lord Kai Law is doing quicker times than yesterday, which were quickest overall, but still in the 2:33, so 2:33.040 today for the Mercedes. 2:33.9 yesterday in free practice 1, and a 2:33.9 in free practice 2.
James Tang, a big problem. Lots of smoke. Suspension has collapsed, and either that is because it's a mechanical failure or he's clanged the wall, and with the car on the racetrack, this is going to stoppage. Red flag straight away. The session is stopped, so James Tang causes the red flag, and anybody that was on a quick lap, of course, is going to be frustrated. I think he's hit the wall there, looking at the side of the car. So James Tang.
And the trajectory of the rubber.
You're right, the witness mark on the road, So James Tang, or James Clang, possibly, if he's hit the wall hard, has brought the car to a stop on the road, and that means that the session is interrupted at pretty much the halfway point. Just 13 minutes on the clock still to go. Right
in the middle of the track, that car needs to be recovered. It's not even going to be able to limp back. It's a long way. So, a recovery required, an interruption in the qualifying session. Red flag goes out. 13 minutes and 5 seconds of the qualifying session remain, and you were saying it, David, and you're absolutely right. We see it, so actually scraping down the wall for quite a long way as well, so hence the smoke and the damage as well. And that's a hard hit, and it's on the driver's side as well, bear in mind. So James Tang hopefully will be okay, and hopefully that car can be repaired, although it's relatively speaking, got not much time between qualifying sessions. Right, so everybody heads to the pit lane, and this means the clock stops. Of course, if we have these interruptions today, then with them being qualifying sessions, so the clock stops rather than it tick away as it did in free practice yesterday. And with 13 minutes on the clock, it will be resumed. But first of all, everybody needs to come to the pit lane, then the marshals can go to work on the circuit. And just to remind you that we have another qualifying session for the Greater Bay Area GT Cup, and that's at 3:45 this afternoon. 24 degrees and sunny, nice and warm in Macau. Cars heading into pit lane. Opportunity for teams to have a little check over, have a look at the tyre temperatures, all of those kind of things. And according to regulations, the cars will need to line up, parked at an angle to the front of the garages occupied by the Formula 4 cars. So there is James Tang with the damaged Mercedes, which again was a quick car yesterday, second fastest in FP2, that car from the TRC team. They are going to be very, very busy to try to make that good for later on. Now, where was James Tang in the times? He was a long way back anyway. He was 13th. He'd just done a personal best lap and then had his error, but it may be that he can't take part in Q2, so he's got to rely on that time, which is not going to help for a good position. There'd be a fair bit of work needed to be done on that car.
Oh, you're not wrong. Lorkai Law's Mercedes that we were anticipating would be top, only second, and giving away an amazing 3.9 seconds. And just as he was trying to get into a rhythm, red flag comes out, session stops, and that therefore goes against him.
That is astonishing, isn't it? And once again, just to remark that we didn't see anywhere near the time set by the Lamborghini, and yesterday finishing the free practice session 5th and 6th, and then into qualifying almost 4 seconds quicker than the nearest car in the first part of qualifying. That is impressive stuff, isn't it?
And Giatong just having a look at the times there on the iPhone. 77 sits in the pit lane, which is the Lo Kim Ho Ginetta. And again, it gives you an opportunity to bask in these fantastic liveries that the cars have. The creativity of Asian motorsport colour schemes is fantastic.
It is absolutely wonderful.
So for the Toro Racing squad, Mercedes, AMG, BMW, the two different brands that represents, the BMW M4 and to a degree the M6, which is the GT3 variant, still look more like touring cars than GT cars, but they fit the GT regulation and
have been successful.
Absolutely, yeah.
Raced around the world.
Very much a GT car is the Ginetta, as into the pit lane comes Le Kit Meng. If you've got a very long memory, you might remember Le Kit Meng racing in the British Formula 3 Championship for Trevor Carlin's team a long time ago. He was racing the World Touring Car Championship, but another regular racer. Raced in the Formula 3 Grand Prix here, of course. And the Ginetta down the pit road.
Such a cool British car story, the Ginetta story. The company has been in existence for many years, but Lawrence Tomlinson took over the company some years ago and is a big motorsport fan, and the umbrella of Ginetta cars in GT racing, not just in the UK but around the world, has been very impressive, hasn't it?
It has. I mean, it was started all those years ago by the Walcott brothers and ticked along, but it was Martin Pfaff, wasn't it, that rescued it and started to bring it back into motor racing, initially with the G20. It was Martin Pfaff that had the Ginetta Junior idea, and he rather gets forgotten about in the modern era, but he did a huge amount of work. But you're right, Lawrence Tomlinson has introduced more cars, more categories, and it's still regarded, I suspect, more of a race brand than a road car brand, but it's been successful in that respect nonetheless. Into the pit lane arrives Deng Zhubin with another Toro Racing entry as Matt Carlock gets out of his Lotus. And if drivers are getting out of cars, it suggests that they know it's going to be a long wait. They're getting some air and just having a stretch. Well,
it is warm, and when it's warm in Macau, it's pretty hot. And to get out of a car, and bear in mind that Matt Carlock's car has got a fairly small airspace inside that Lotus, so a bit of air inside the car, a bit of air around the driver as well, is probably very welcome at this point. So, lined up, a rather expensive car park that, and a rather glorious looking car park as well. We are blessed with a great entry with such variety as well for the Melco Greater Bay Area GT Cup.
Melco Greater Bay Area GT Cup qualifying 1 will resume shortly.
So you hear in the background, it's going to be a resumption on short notice, but we haven't yet got a time, but as soon as they can, because as we were making the point yesterday, of course the roads have to be opened, and there is also sunset, which is 5:45. It was about 5:45, wasn't it? We were discovering it was going dark here. It will restart at 25 past the hour, so we are now about 40 seconds away from the session getting back underway.
Good news, and we have just under 13 minutes of this session remaining, so we have pretty much half of the qualifying 1 session.
But in real terms, that is going to be about 9 minutes of competitive time, because if you like, it's going to be 3 minutes for an outlap, then you've got to do at least 1 start-up lap. So, yeah, these red flags do have a big impact.
They do, but they are very much something that you factor into a race weekend, because they are, I hate to say it, inevitable. And not just at Macau, road circuits, just through their very nature. That's how a race weekend works. Frustrating, particularly when you want to get into a rhythm, which was why yesterday the 2 sessions that we had for the Galaxy Entertainment Macau GT Cup, the GT3 cars, both sessions they were properly able to get into a rhythm. No interruptions. Wonderful.
Not quite sure what all the confusion was in the pit lane. The green flag had been shown. Some teams were trying to get their cars out. Some were heading down the pit lane. It all got a bit messy there. But anyway, the circuit is now busy. I think Toro Racing was trying to dispatch the BMW of Chen Sun Cheng, which is there, but others were not sure whether to wait or to go. Anyway, the clock ticks on down, as you see. 12.5 minutes already remain, and it's got very busy very soon. Out, including the Audi in the background. You just caught a glimpse of the yellow-fronted Audi of Delphine Choi that was in strife yesterday, and look at the way that Toro Racing are absolutely committed on this outlap, carving through the traffic, desperate to get to the head of the queue.
They really are, aren't they? There is a real sense of urgency around this, and it is only qualifying 1. There is another qualifying session later on today for them. However, what it does tell you is when you have the chance, you have to make it count.
Yeah, and Lokai Law has gone storming out there as though his life depended on it. He's absolutely desperate to get clear track space, as he was even before the red flag, and actually that was only the second fastest. We have got a couple of cars under investigation for crossing the pit exit line. One of them is the Hewlett Cars Elegant Race racing team Mercedes AMG, and another one is supposedly James Tang. Well, he was the man that caused the red flag, so either that was at the start of the session or it's been wrongly identified.
And bear in mind how committed this lap looks. Just an out lap, a warm-up lap, if you like, for Law Key Law, coming up towards traffic as they go through police and then through Moorish Corner, the Janetta, the Lake Meng car just in front.
And a big flash of the lights from the Mercedes AMG of Lord Kai Law.
It's not working.
Well, no, and nor does it need to, because equally, Lake Meng wants to go for a lap time, and oh, so nearly contact there. He wants to get away from that Mercedes, so he's got the clear road ahead of him. He's done the rust out. He's not going to give up that notional track position for this pesky Mercedes, which is absolutely crawling all over him.
And the interesting thing, this is an outlap, so although they are seemingly very quick and very committed on this lap, they're still doing the job of getting a bit of heat back into the tyres as well. So they can't afford to put a wheel wrong here. No. So eventually the Mercedes gets ahead of the Janetta.
And now Meng ought to just sit there behind and match his pace against the Mercedes, because if the Mercedes is that quick, then he'll get dragged along with it.
I thought he'd sit behind and flash his lights. And that's what it feels like.
Absolutely. Well, you can see how quick the Mercedes is because of the way that gap between them has grown, and he's only been ahead for a couple of corners. Now, let's just wallow in this. This is the Mercedes AMG, then, of Lord Kai Law, former Carter, Asian Formula Renault racer, China GT racer. And the time that he's got to try to beat is a 2:29.128. He's heading towards the end then of the first sector as he comes then from Mandarin down towards Lisboa. Green is a thumbs up, purple is a double thumbs up, yellow is an and it's a yellow, it's an at the end of the first sector, so he's going to have to dig deep here to try to recover from that. He's not as quick as he needs to be in sector 1.
Through Lisboa, up towards San Francisco Hill, a great looking car on the gear circuit and being driven with a huge amount of commitment. So too, the car that sits on provisional pole, the lime green Lamborghini, and quite a bit of traffic to deal with for the Lamborghini. Yeah. The time for Liang is a 2:29.128. We've got just under 9 minutes of the session remaining. Slips down on the inside, but not quite.
There's an element of confusion there, wasn't there? Because I think that Xiao Yu in the Cayman was trying to let him by, and equally Liang Jiatong was braking, so he didn't make contact. The Cayman in the promotional colours of the GT4 Club Sport Cayman lets him go up the hill, up San Francisco Hill. So now Liang Jiatong does have clear real estate ahead of him, but he will have lost time at Lisboa, so this is another lap that gets a thumbs down. Yeah,
it's really in this section that you don't want to be caught behind traffic, so he was trying to do, as you say, everything right and let the car behind, but it's also a question of at what point the car is close enough to get past. It's just a little bit awkward timing there, and the good news is that they didn't touch and there was no damage to either of the cars, because it could have got a bit wrong that. As so often it can at Macau.
Yes, indeed. As we have already seen from the likes of James Tang and one or two others in other sessions. Right, so Liang Jiatong then presses on. 8 more minutes of this session to go. Of course, the other element of these yellow sectors is that they're still getting tyres back up to temperature. Behind him, you've got another of those ultra-smart Porsche Caymans. That's the Jiang Rouchet car of the RSRT. Right, what about Kai Law's lap time?
Personal best, sector 2 and 3.
Okay.
And about to come across the line and complete the lap. What's sector 4 going to be? So that was a 2:32.116 for Kai Law.
Which is an improvement, but not enough to put him onto pole position.
So for that car, that driver, best time of the weekend so far.
Number 11, which is Lai Chi Ho with the BMW, is being looked at for going through a red light at the pit exit. So the stewards are being busier today. They had a relatively easy time in free practice, but there are more transgressions coming now.
When it gets competitive, it changes, doesn't it?
Now look at this, Lord Kai Law, personal best sector 1. So this has the potential to narrow the margin. Traffic allowing, because there's another car, look at the top of one of the BMWs that he's going to have to negotiate as they come then now through the Solitude S's.
But David, however committed you are, that's a big mountain to climb.
It is.
It's almost 3 seconds.
And it's surprising in a way that it's a non-GT4 car that's setting the pace. So Lord Kailor gets through the traffic, but he will have lost a little bit of time in so doing. Yeah, yesterday you could put money on him absolutely dominating the weekend, but it's not happening for him. As you rightly say, there's Q2 to come, but he's down in sector 2 and he's a little bit wide there, isn't he?
Yeah.
Again, it's almost now starting to look that he knows he's not the fastest, and actually he's overdriving and it's getting scrappy, and he's backed out of this lap because that was another mistake made.
Well, we saw it here last time, didn't we?
But he's bailed.
Yeah, I think you're right. Didn't feel right, wasn't going right.
No.
It was...
He'd lost time in the traffic, getting past the being investigated BM anyway of Lai Chi Ho, but now he needs to take a breath, have a think, go again.
And what of the car on provisional pole, the Lamborghini number 9, 2:29.128. I'm not sure, you know, that a clear lap is going to present itself to the Lamborghini. It was very much in traffic, wasn't it? We've had the restart, so it's not going to be the work of a moment to get another. One would assume that 2:29 lap was a pretty perfect lap. We didn't see it, did we?
No, he wasn't that far behind the Mercedes at the time, but yes, I think he was in the right place at the right time in that first segment of qualifying. Now, he was released in the traffic on that restart. They couldn't control it as well, the team, and therefore he's embedded in traffic once more. Over the timing line goes on that lap of slow Lord Kailor. Another traffic jam emerging from the Melco hairpin, including a Toro Racing BMW that is looking for clear track space and now accelerates away. Their 96 Mercedes of Li Chao. Slow, Chris Shear trying to get past him. It's like the slow bicycle race, this. Nobody wants to sort of push. Finally, they wriggle their way through to the front of the traffic.
I did say it might be need to find another clear lap like it had in the first part of this qualifying session. I didn't realise it was going to be that tricky. 7 other cars.
Well, actually, he's now done it, and he's just at the right place. Liang Jiatong is, with the tyres are warm enough, he's going to be able to have another go, because now he has got himself to the head of that queue. Over the timing line he goes. Forget that lap, you need a calendar for it. It was so slow with the traffic, but he goes now into Reservoir Bend with the road relatively clear ahead of him, save for the Evan Mack BMW.
So traffic is going to feature, although for now, around the very quick parts of the circuit, down towards Lisboa now on this 4-lane section of circuit into the braking area, and still clear track. The Lamborghini turns through, neatly through, avoiding the curbs towards San Francisco Hill, and that's quite a climb in whatever vehicle you're in. Certainly a track walk is quite tricky. Quite an angle on that.
But he's down in sector 1, and there's more traffic up the road, and we've got a Cayman in strife as well. Look, number 30 is slow, Jiang Rushi. He's gone straight on at Lisboa.
3-point turn.
Yeah, exactly, going to turn the car around.
And a much better option than just hitting the barrier on the outside of the corner. That's a horrible feeling, I would imagine, understeering at Lisboa. Much better to use the escape road, lose a bit of time, forget the lap, keep the car in one piece, and press on onto the next lap.
So Evan Mack's BMW, the Hong Kong driver, ahead on the road now of Liang Jiatong. That BMW is 15th in the times, and he's a little bit slow coming out of police. So this is going against Liang Jiatong. There is now less than a lap time left in the session. He's got one more lap.
He's got one more lap to have a clear.
But he's got to get past the BM anyway.
Yeah, he has. And I did say it was potentially going to be a bit tricky. It's to get the clear lap, which does reiterate how important it is to put the lap in nice and early on in the session. When you know what you've got, you find the clear lap, and you might spend the rest of the 25-minute session looking for the same gift.
So if he can get past Evan Mack, Liang Jiatong has got one more lap in which he can try to improve that lap time, but he might also reflect on the fact that he is 2.6 seconds quicker anyway than the improved time of Law Kai Law, and that's probably enough to keep him in good stead going into Q2.
Yeah, so as you rightly say, Law Kai Law has gone quicker, brought the gap down to 2.6 seconds, which is still quite a gap, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's impressive for car number 3 as well, Leo Liccar in the Elegant Racing Team Mercedes. Briefly, I know he is up there in 4th place now, so impressive for the Macau driver.
Right, Liang Jiatong's clear of the traffic. He's got one roll of the dice now to try to go even faster. Can we get him into the high 228s? That would be the target. He gets to the end of Sector 1, down towards Lisboa, into that right-hander. Road is clear up ahead of him, so it's looking optimistic for Liang Jiatong here. The GTC class pole position holder as well as overall. The fastest GT4 driver is here, Law Kai Law, so he's got a notional pole in class at least, and he's on the front row of the grid. So he makes the run now down towards police.
I think they get their own podium as well for GT4 cars. But will just be interesting after yesterday. I think we could have pretty much predicted that that was going to be the car on top of the pile today, and all of a sudden we had an extremely impressive lap from the Lamborghini. 2:29.128, still the provisional pole time, and the clock counts to 0.
Yeah, I was going to say, Law Kai Law's going to get the flag this time, isn't he? And he's not improving either. He's down in the sectors. But Liang Jiatong is the one we need to be looking for, because he was quick and he was on a clear bit of the racetrack when we last saw him heading uphill. There he is. So is it still fast enough? Checkered flag, he's out. And there's Liang Jiatong in the Lamborghini Huracan, heading up to Donna Maria.
Oh, the noise. Just wonderful.
It is, and a Lamborghini makes a great sound anyway.
It really does.
Having come back from the World Finals a couple of weeks ago, where we had a weekend purely of these cars, it was something to really savour. Comes out of the Melco hairpin, drops downhill, he'll take the checkered flag, and is there going to be an improvement for Liang Jiatong this time through? We'll find out. He still looks like he's pressing on. Comes towards the left at Fisherman, sorry, the right at Fisherman's, onto the power now. What about anybody else to improve on the last lap? Chris Shear has got faster, but he's still 3rd.
Brian Nye did.
Yeah, he's up to 4th in another of the Lamborghinis. And to the timing line then now comes Liang Jiatong. He's down in the sectors. It's not an improvement, so a 2:31.7. No improvement, as I say, but he does end the session as the fastest. A really impressive effort, that.
Yeah, and a 2:31.7 is still a 10th quicker than the best lap by Law Kai Law. So that Lamborghini has been incredibly impressive. A clear, relatively clear early on lap, put in a time of 2:29.128, and never headed during that 25-minute qualifying session. They qualify again later on this afternoon. They qualify towards the end of the afternoon. The penultimate, we've got GT cars bunched together at the end, because we've got the Galaxy Entertainment Macau GT Cup, the final session on track, but the Melco Greater Bay Area GT Cup that we've just enjoyed over Q1 will be the penultimate on-track session at 3:45 this afternoon.
You talk about what a good effort Liang Jiatong has done. Yesterday, in the first session, he did a 2:38. In the second, he was slower, firstly, at 2:40. And this morning, whatever he's had for breakfast, I tell you, I want some. It's a 2:29. That is a massive amount of time to find.
It really is, yeah. And Law Kai Law back to the team to say, any chance of another couple of tenths per lap, maybe slightly more.
Yeah. A couple of tenths per sector at the very least. Yeah, exactly. But I think that's probably come as a bit of a shock to the team, actually.
Yeah, I would imagine, because it was a dominance by the Mercedes yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, precisely. That's Brian Lye's Lamborghini, but has ended up 4th fastest, improving towards the end of the session, which was another good effort. The slowest in the end was the car of Sam Yu, number 97, the Lotus Exige, another of the GTC spec cars for the driver from Macau. So the field making its way back now towards the pit lane, and as Alan says, they'll get Q2 later on. The driver counts his better time from the 2 sessions for the grid, and then the first race comes tomorrow. They get the qualifying race and then the main race, if you like, the longer race, the feature race on Sunday.
So that's conclusion of Q1, qualifying 1 for the Melco Greater Bay Area GT Cup. As we say, they are the penultimate qualifying session on track later on this afternoon at 3:45. But for now, it's a Lamborghini on top, a GTC Lamborghini from a GT4 Mercedes. And that brings the cars around the final few turns of the gear circuit here at Macau. In glorious sunshine today here at Macau, 25 degrees and climbing. I think a predicted high of 28 degrees and very warm for this afternoon. So conditions are going to get warmer and warmer as we go on. And it's all about qualifying today. 2 qualifying sessions for all, albeit with the touring cars having 2 sessions back to back, 1 slightly shorter session following Q1 for Q2. And all of that to look forward to as the GT cars make their way into pit lane to bring to a conclusion Q1 for the Melco Greater Bay Area GT Cup. Confirmation, car number 9, the Harmony Racing Lamborghini Huracan Liang Jingtong, with a 229.128 from Lorky Law in the Toro Racing Mercedes, GTC and GT4 cars respectively. Chris Cha was 3rd, Brian Lai at the end was 4th, Liu Lit Ka was 5th, and Cheng Zhong Cheng was in 6th place at the conclusion of Q1. But that is only Q1. Q2 to look forward to later on this afternoon. 28 cars in total were on circuit for qualifying 1, and in glorious conditions to reflect on 25 minutes with 1 brief interruption in that session. We can reflect on a very exciting first qualifying